If you're a US citizen, a green card holder, or someone still waiting for approval, what I'm about to share could change everything you thought you knew. Because yes, there are real situations where a person can lose their US citizenship, and I guarantee most people have no idea how it actually works. Now, before you panic, let me be clear. My goal today isn't to scare you, it's to give you the truth. Because when you understand the rules, you stop worrying and start feeling confident. You take back control of your journey. I'm John, and thank you for trusting me to guide you through these critical immigration updates. Every single day, policies shift, processing times change, new announcements drop, and sometimes it's the small details that make the biggest difference. In this episode, we're diving deep into the truth behind losing citizenship, how it actually happens, who it affects, and what it really means for you. Plus, we'll cover the latest immigration updates that could impact applicants, families, workers, and students worldwide. Now, let me say this up front. This is not legal advice. I'm not a government official or an attorney. I'm here to break down complex information into simple, clear language so you never feel lost or overwhelmed. Here's what most people believe. Once you become a US citizen, you're untouchable. You get your passport, you vote, you settle down, and it feels permanent. Rock solid, forever. But here's the reality. It's more complicated than that. US citizenship is incredibly powerful. It's one of the strongest forms of protection in the world, but it's not completely bulletproof. There are specific laws, clear processes, and careful systems that review cases when something wasn't done correctly. Now, does that mean the government is hunting for ways to strip people of their citizenship? Absolutely not. But it does mean citizenship is taken seriously, and the path to getting it must be honest and lawful from start to finish. Before we talk about how someone can lose citizenship, let's talk about who's actually considered a citizen in the first place. Some people are citizens by birth. They were born in the United States, in certain US territories, or they were born abroad to at least one American parent who passed citizenship down to them. Others become citizens through naturalization. They weren't born American, but they went through the immigration process, lived here legally, passed the exams, took the oath, and earned it. Both groups are citizens, both have rights, both are protected under the Constitution. But here's the key difference. For people born as US citizens, their status is almost untouchable. In nearly every situation, it cannot be taken away unless there was massive fraud involving identity or birth records from the very beginning. And that is extremely rare. For naturalized citizens, there's a paper trail, applications, interviews, background checks, forms. If years later the government discovers that something critical in that process was intentionally hidden or falsified, they have the legal power to review it. But listen carefully. That doesn't mean mistakes automatically remove your citizenship. It doesn't mean small errors destroy your life. Reviews focus on intentional deception, not confusion, not language barriers, not honest misunderstandings. So as we move forward, I want you to remember this. Most people never face citizenship problems. Ever. The stories you hear are usually tied to serious fraud, criminal deception, or choices that directly conflict with loyalty to the United States. Let's start with something that surprises a lot of people. It's not scary at all. In fact, it's completely voluntary. The first way someone can lose US citizenship is by choosing to give it up. This is called renunciation, and it doesn't happen casually or by accident. You can't lose your citizenship because you got frustrated. You can't lose it because you moved abroad. You can't lose it because you posted something online saying you don't want to be American anymore. Renunciation is a very formal, deliberate process. It happens face-to-face at a US embassy or consulate outside the United States. You meet with an official. You sign detailed paperwork. You take an oath stating clearly that you understand exactly what you're doing. There's a significant fee involved, and once it's complete, it's permanent. There's no undo button, no takebacks. People choose to renounce for different reasons. Some live permanently in another country and feel fully settled there. Others want to simplify taxes or financial systems. Some do it for personal, political, or identity reasons. Whatever the reason, the key is this: it's always a personal decision. No one forces you into it. And when someone renounces, they lose the ability to vote. They lose automatic entry into the United States. They may need a visa in the future just to visit. For most people, this step never becomes part of their life. It's rare, intentional, and carefully documented. And let me make this crystal clear. Simply living abroad, having dual citizenship, or staying overseas for a long time does not automatically take your citizenship away. Renunciation only happens when someone specifically chooses it and completes the formal process. Now, this next part is where people start to feel anxious. So I'm going to walk through this slowly and carefully. Yes, the government can remove citizenship in certain circumstances, but it usually happens for one reason: serious fraud during the naturalization process. This is called denaturalization, and it does not apply to everyone. It doesn't happen randomly. It doesn't happen because someone forgot a date or made a small mistake on a form years ago. Denaturalization usually happens when the government discovers that a person intentionally hid something major while applying for citizenship. That might include using a different identity, concealing a criminal past, hiding involvement in violent groups, or lying about events that were central to approving the application. When something like that is discovered, it doesn't get handled quietly. It becomes a legal process in federal court. The person has the right to know what's happening. They have the right to respond. They have the right to representation. And nothing happens overnight. There's evidence, arguments, reviews, decisions made by judges. I know this sounds frightening, but here's the truth that gets buried in all the rumors. Most citizens never experience denaturalization. Why? Because most people went through their immigration journey honestly. Even if English was difficult, even if paperwork was confusing, even if mistakes were made by accident, the focus is on clear, intentional deception, not misunderstanding. Here's something else that surprises people. There's no set time limit. The government can look back at older files if something serious comes to light later, but that doesn't mean they're constantly digging through files looking for reasons to remove citizenship. What it means is that citizenship is treated as something precious, something that must be earned truthfully. If you followed the process, told the truth, showed your records, and answered honestly, you have nothing to fear. And even when cases do happen, they're not about punishing people who tried their best. They're about correcting situations where citizenship was granted based on false information. There's another area that creates a lot of confusion and unnecessary fear. It has to do with associations. The groups people join, the choices they make after becoming U.S. citizens. In very specific cases, citizenship can be questioned when someone becomes involved with organizations that are openly hostile to the United States or support violence against the government. Now listen, this isn't about opinions. It's not about disagreements. It's not about expressing criticism. It's not about peaceful activism, religion, culture, or community organizations. What matters here is intent and alignment with groups whose goals directly involve overthrowing or harming the United States. In the past, there have been cases where people joined extremist organizations, helped hostile governments, or took roles that clearly worked against U.S. national security. When that happens, the government may review whether the person's original oath of allegiance, the promise they made when they became a citizen, was sincere. Sometimes this review happens within the first few years after naturalization, because the law assumes that behavior shortly after citizenship may reveal the person's true intentions at the time they applied. But I want to slow down here and emphasize something critical. This does not apply to most people. Living abroad doesn't cause this. Visiting another country doesn't cause this. Having strong cultural, family, or emotional ties to your homeland doesn't cause this. Even holding firm political views doesn't automatically put you at risk. These situations involve extreme circumstances. They're reviewed carefully, slowly, and through the legal system. Not through rumors, not assumptions, not social media posts. If you came to the United States, worked hard, followed the law, took the oath with sincerity, and built your life honestly, you are not the type of person these laws target. They exist for rare, serious cases, not everyday citizens living normal lives. So if you ever hear dramatic headlines or exaggerated stories, take a breath. Ask yourself, did the situation involve violence, deception, direct harm to the United States? In most cases, the answer explains everything. Now let's talk about something much more common and often misunderstood: dual citizenship. Millions of Americans hold two passports today. Many were born in one country and later naturalized in the United States. Others were born in America to parents from somewhere else and inherited citizenship from both nations. For the most part, the United States allows dual citizenship, and it doesn't automatically put anyone at risk. You can visit your family, maintain your cultural roots, travel back and forth, even feel connected to both countries at the same time. That's normal. And for many families, it's a gift. However, there are rare situations where dual citizenship becomes complicated. These usually involve taking a formal position in another government or swearing an oath that explicitly rejects loyalty to the United States. For example, if someone becomes a high-ranking official in a foreign government that conflicts with U.S. interests, or they sign documents declaring exclusive allegiance to another nation, the government may review whether they still intend to remain fully committed to their U.S. citizenship. Even then, it's not automatic. There's analysis, questions, legal review. Simply renewing a foreign passport, voting in some foreign elections, or maintaining family ties usually doesn't threaten your citizenship. The key question is intention. Did the person mean to abandon their American identity in a formal, legal way? So if you hold two passports, breathe. For most people, it's perfectly fine. Travel, study, work, care for your loved ones, stay connected to your heritage. The law isn't designed to punish people for honoring their background. It's designed to look at very specific, rare behaviors that directly contradict the oath made during naturalization. And as always, if anyone's ever unsure about a complex situation, the safest step is to get professional guidance, not because you should be afraid, but because clarity brings peace of mind. There's one more category that gets mentioned in movies, headlines, and dramatic conversations: the idea of losing citizenship because of treason or actions against the United States. This is the most extreme and rarest situation of all. In very limited cases, a person can face both criminal charges and possible loss of citizenship if they actively work as an agent for an enemy government, support armed rebellion, or commit treason. These cases are not common. They involve serious investigations, clear evidence, and long legal processes that go through federal courts. Nothing happens quickly. Nothing happens quietly. A judge must review everything. The person has rights. The system is designed to be strict, careful, and deliberate. For most people watching this scenario will never come close to your life. Studying abroad, disagreeing with policies, criticizing leaders, posting opinions online, or having strong emotions about global events does not equal treason. Everyday worries, travel plans, family visits, and political opinions do not lead to citizenship loss. When we talk about treason, we're talking about rare, extreme actions with deep consequences, and they're carefully proven before any decision is made. I share this not to alarm you, but to remind you that most citizens live their entire lives without ever hearing the word treason applied to anything around them. The laws exist because every country protects itself, but they're rarely used. And they're not designed to target ordinary people simply living their lives, raising families, working, studying, and contributing. Now let's talk about people who were born in the United States. This is another area where rumors create unnecessary panic. If you were born in the United States or in most U.S. territories and you received citizenship at birth, your status is incredibly strong and protected under the Constitution. In nearly every situation, your citizenship cannot be taken away simply because you traveled, lived abroad, made mistakes, or experienced immigration issues with family members. For US-born citizens, the only extremely rare exception involves fraud at the very beginning. Things like falsified birth records, fabricated identities, or organized scams where documents were intentionally created to show a birth in the United States when it didn't actually happen. These situations are hard to prove. They involve deep investigations, and they usually come from long-running fraud rings rather than everyday families. So again, if you were born here, your citizenship is not fragile. It doesn't disappear because of misunderstandings or because your parents weren't citizens at the time. The law is designed to protect people born in the country, and when rare fraud cases do arise, they go through courts, evidence, appeals, and long reviews. Not quick decisions, not guesses. I want you to hear that clearly because so many viewers message me saying they heard something online and now they're terrified. The truth is, most of the time, there's nothing to fear. Awareness is helpful. Panic is not. Now that we've covered the rare situations where citizenship can be questioned, I want to shift our focus to something that affects far more people every single day. Immigration updates, processing times, and the ongoing wait that so many families, students, and workers are dealing with right now in 2026. If you're waiting on a decision, I know the process feels slow, uncertain, and sometimes unfair. You check your case status, you refresh your email, you hear different stories from friends and social media, and it becomes confusing very quickly. That's why I break things down in simple language. No panic, no hype. Just clear information so you know what to expect. Across many categories, USCIS continues to work through backlogs that built up over recent years. Some cases are moving faster than expected, others are taking longer than the posted timelines. For example, some employment-based applications and work permits in certain offices have improved, while family-based petitions in busy regions still face delays. This doesn't mean anything's wrong with your case. It usually means the local office is handling thousands of files at the same time, and each one must be checked carefully. When you see case actively being reviewed, it often simply means your file is in the queue, not forgotten. And when you see no updates for months, that's frustrating, but it's still normal. The best thing you can do is keep your documents organized, watch your online account, and respond quickly if USCIS ever asks for more evidence. You don't need to refresh your status every hour. You don't need to compare your case to everyone else's. Each timeline is slightly different, and silence doesn't automatically mean bad news. Another important area involves visas, students, workers, visitors, and families hoping to travel. Let's start with work visas. Categories like H-1B, L-1, and related dependents remain highly requested. And when demand is high, processing sometimes feels slow. Some applicants receive approvals quickly, especially if premium processing is used. Others wait longer for background checks or administrative review. Again, delays don't always signal denial. Sometimes it simply means more verification is happening behind the scenes. For students, especially those on F-1 visas, the biggest thing to remember is planning ahead. Schools, embassies, and USCIS all operate on timelines that must align. Maintaining full-time enrollment, following your program rules, and staying in touch with your school's international office are some of the simplest ways to avoid unnecessary problems. And for visitors on B1 or B2 visas, officers are mainly looking for clarity, clear travel plans, proof you intend to return home, honesty about why you're visiting. There's no perfect script. There's only being truthful, prepared, and calm. Family members traveling or applying for visas often experience emotional stress because their plans involve weddings, illnesses, reunions, and important life events. Sometimes interviews get delayed. Sometimes documents are requested again. Sometimes travel plans need adjusting. I know that stings. I know it feels personal, but in most situations, these delays are procedural, not punishment. Staying patient, responding carefully, and avoiding panic reactions usually helps more than anything else. And when something feels confusing, it's always better to seek trusted guidance rather than rely on rumors. When we talk about immigration, one of the biggest topics on people's minds is the green card process. For many families and workers, a green card represents stability, long-term security, and the chance to truly build a future in the United States. But the journey can be slow. Processing times depend on the category, the country of origin, and the local office handling the case. Some people receive interview notices faster than expected. Others wait much longer than they imagined. Neither experience is unusual. In family-based categories, especially for spouses and immediate relatives, processing has improved in some locations. Other field offices still have noticeable backlogs. Employment-based categories continue to shift as visa numbers open and close during the year. Sometimes priority dates move forward. Sometimes they pause. Sometimes they even move backward. And when that happens, people feel discouraged. But this movement is part of how the system balances demand. It doesn't mean your dream has disappeared. It simply means the timeline has changed. Interviews are another part of this journey that creates anxiety. Many viewers message me and say, "John, I'm scared. What if I say something wrong? What if I forget a detail?" Interviews are not designed to trap people. They exist to confirm information and make sure records match. Officers usually ask about your relationship, your work, your address, your history, and basic life details. Honesty is always the safest path. If you don't remember something exactly, it's better to explain that calmly than to guess or make something up. And if USCIS needs more documents, they'll usually request them officially. That step can feel frustrating, but it's normal. It doesn't automatically mean denial. It often simply means they need clearer proof before making a final decision. Keeping copies, staying organized, and approaching each step with patience helps more than anything else. Travel is another area where people worry, especially if they have pending cases. Before traveling, it's important to understand what type of status you have and whether you're allowed to leave and return. Many people traveling on advance parole or with certain pending applications need to follow instructions carefully. Carry your documents. Allow extra time at airports. Be prepared to answer simple questions at the border. Officers are looking for clarity, not perfection. If you're visiting the United States on a temporary visa, the same idea applies. Be honest about the reason for your trip. Explain your ties to your home country. Show that your plans match your visa category. There's no secret trick. There's no magic phrase. Calm, honest communication is usually the strongest foundation. Sometimes travelers experience secondary inspection or extra questioning. When that happens, it can feel intimidating. But in many cases, it's routine. Officers may need to verify something in the system, confirm identity, or review previous travel records. Being respectful, patient, and cooperative goes a long way. I know the waiting room moments can feel endless, but most people are eventually cleared and continue their journey. And it's important to remember that border decisions are about rules, not personal judgment of your worth or your story. As we look at the bigger picture, immigration in 2026 is full of moving parts. Policies change, forms update, fees sometimes increase, digital systems continue to expand. USCIS has been using more online tools for uploading documents, checking case status, and receiving notices. That can feel convenient for some people and confusing for others. If you ever feel lost, take your time. Read instructions slowly. Double-check details before submitting. And don't feel pressured by rumors that say, if you don't do this right now, your case will be ruined. Most of the time, there's space to breathe and space to correct honest mistakes. I also want to acknowledge the emotional side of all this. Waiting for a visa, a work permit, or a green card isn't just paperwork. It's your life. It's your plans, your family, your education, your future. Some days feel hopeful. Other days feel heavy, and that's completely human. If you ever feel discouraged, remind yourself that millions of people have walked this road before you. Many waited longer than they expected and still eventually reached the place they were trying to go. Staying informed doesn't remove all stress, but it does help you feel more grounded and prepared. As we bring everything together, I want to return to the main truth behind today's topic. U.S. citizenship is powerful, meaningful, and deeply protective, but it also carries responsibilities and legal structures that exist for a reason. The title of this video may sound serious. And yes, there are real situations where someone can lose their citizenship. But as we've seen, those situations are rare, very specific, and almost always connected to clear intent, fraud, or choices that directly conflict with the promise someone made when they became a citizen. For most people, people who followed the rules, told the truth, and built their life honestly, citizenship is secure. Awareness is important, but fear is not necessary. At the same time, the immigration process, whether it involves visas, green cards, travel, or naturalization, can be long, detailed, and sometimes confusing. Processing times shift, rules sometimes change, interviews get delayed, notices arrive when you least expect them, and through all of that, you may feel worried about making mistakes. I want you to hear this clearly. Confusion is normal. Questions are normal. Feeling impatient, frustrated, or tired is normal. What matters most is staying informed, staying truthful, and staying patient with yourself. Whenever we talk about immigration systems, it's easy to think of everything as paperwork and regulations. But behind every case number, there's a real human being. A student trying to build a future. A parent fighting for family unity. A worker contributing skills. A spouse waiting to live under the same roof again. And there are citizens, both naturalized and born here, who sometimes feel unsure about what the laws actually mean. If you're one of them, remember that learning is power. Understanding how things work gives you clarity, and clarity helps you make calm, thoughtful decisions. Throughout today's update, I've shared information, not legal advice, not predictions. Because immigration journeys are personal and unique. If you ever face a complicated situation, getting professional help can bring reassurance. And if everything's going smoothly, staying informed helps. You remain confident and prepared. Whether you're at the beginning of your immigration path or already living as a U.S. citizen, your story matters, and you deserve truthful, respectful information. So here's the gentle takeaway I hope you leave with today. U.S. citizenship is not something that disappears easily. It's strong, it's protected, it's honored, and while rare exceptions exist, they're handled carefully and through long legal processes, not rumors, not fear. At the same time, visas, green cards, and immigration procedures require patience, organization, and awareness. And even when the road feels slow, many people do eventually reach the outcome they hoped for. If today's update helped you feel more informed or more calm, I'm truly glad. Immigration journeys can be stressful, but staying aware, step by step, helps you stay prepared. If you'd like to receive more daily updates about U.S. immigration, visas, citizenship, and travel, make sure you're subscribed to Dream Visa Updates. And if you have a question or experience to share, drop it in the comments. Your story may comfort or guide someone else who's watching and feeling the same worries you once felt. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I'm John, and I appreciate your trust and your presence. Take care. Stay hopeful.